Hello everybody, Roman vacationers. We are live coming to you from St. Peter's Basilica. It's right behind me. It is 6 o'clock. You can hear these bells ringing. We decided to start this a little bit early so you could hear them. So we've got Mircea here. He is our top tour guide, one of the owners as well. He's going to take over from here, and good luck. Have fun on your tiny tour.
Well, hello and good evening everybody. Welcome back again. Been missing for a few weeks. Hello to everybody that's there. So now we're in St. Peter's Square, the seat of one of the most holiest of holies, the main church of Christianity. Or is it? If you actually delve deeper, well, St. Peter's is undoubtedly one of the most beautiful buildings in the history of mankind. As far as the Mother Church of Rome, you're looking at St. John in Lateran, and also Diocese of Rome. What St. Peter's is, however, is supposedly the tomb of Peter. Right underneath of it, you have an ancient burial ground for Christians. So before we talk a bit about the church itself, let's go a bit back into its past. Originally in Roman times, the whole area here, this side of the Tiber, you would have ended up with the possession mainly of the Julii family. You might remember one of their sons, a certain Julius Caesar. Now the Julii family would have owned the lands, and thus the emperors, which are originally descendants from Caesar and the Julii family, will end up inheriting the land as well. And by the reign of the Emperor Nero, so you're looking at the middle of the 1st century, a giant stadium stood behind me on the, well, my right-hand side, basically, behind the church. It was the Stadium of Nero. It was a stadium for the masses, but mainly it was used for the emperors themselves and their private shows. In the middle of this stadium, originally, there was just a long line so the chariots could go around. But by the second half of the 1st century, you're going to end up with the Romans bringing an obelisk from Egypt. The obelisk right behind me. They actually call it the Witness, as in St. Peter's Witness. This was originally put in Alexandria by a Roman governor as a gift to the Emperor Augustus. It belongs to the ancient Egyptians originally. But then the Emperor Caligula is going to have it shipped all the way here with a boat that was so massive that they couldn't actually use for anything else. So after they brought the obelisk here, they put cement in it and they use it as a water dam for the nearby Tiber Island. Now, originally, guys, St. Peter was executed in the stadium itself, and that's why at the base of this obelisk. Now, about 3 centuries would pass and you end up with the Emperor Constantine, St. Constantine as we know him. And since he is the first Christian emperor, he's going to donate a basilica here, built right on top of the tomb of St. Peter's. Not the one you see now. Imagine that after centuries and centuries, after almost 1,200 years, by the 1500s, the original St. Peter's Basilica was almost collapsing on the head of the popes while they were serving Mass. Now, a certain Pope Nicholas V, at the very end of the 15th century, so at the end of the 1400s, decides to start St. Peter's. He's going to set the works in motion, start gathering donations from the faithful, but sadly passes before he gets to start it. His successor, Julius II, the very, very energetic Pope, is going to start the works in earnest in 1506, which, by the way, are the same year that the Swiss Guards were created. Now, in 1506, they're going to hire Donato Bramante, one of the best architects of the age. The man is going to come up with the design, in part copying the Duomo of Florence, Brunelleschi's dome, which is one of the best churches in Italy. The idea was to make a Greek cross. Before I go a bit further, most churches are going to be built in 3 ways. The oldest are going to be basilicas, and you're looking at a rectangular shape with a trapezoidal form on top. Past that, the second shape would be the Greek cross. Think of the plus sign in a lot of ways. And then the Latin cross, the one most of us are familiar with, 3 identical length sides and a longer one down below. Now, originally, Donato Bramante wanted it to be a Greek cross with a giant dome. So therefore equal sides. So they start 1506. After about 30 years, Bramante passes. And at that point, they go through a series of artists very, very fast till they end up with a young one called Raphael. Bet you heard of that one. Okay, so Raphael will design it in a typical flamboyant way, adding it into a Latin cross, but adding 7 apses in front. So basically, it would have more or less finished roughly where I am by the chance of Raphael. Now, Raphael sadly dies at 37, so afterwards, a few more artists pass and then we get another great, and that will be Michelangelo. Now Michelangelo does a quick survey of the ground in front and realizes that if you go with it as long as Raphael would have wanted to make it, 2 things would happen. One, you wouldn't see anything at the dome, right? Because you'd be too long in front. Two, the ground right under us now, I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's a bit shallower. That's because for the original St. Peter's, during the time of Constantine, they had to fill up a whole hill to make it flat. So therefore, any facade they would get to where I am will start collapsing. So what does Michelangelo do? Well, the work's already started on the prolonging the front. So he basically cuts 3 of the 7 proposed apses. He ends up with 4. And you could have actually seen the dome. Notice how you see only 1 dome, but if you actually come to Rome, walking to the church, you'll see 3 domes. Well, the thing is that Michelangelo's church was supposed to finish about 40 meters shorter than you see the one now. But in total, by 1626, with the addition of another artist called Carlo Moderna, the church is going to end up being 220 meters long, per 136 meters tall, per 145 meters wide. Now, why is that? Well, notice the front part, how it's very, very wide. Well, the reason for that is right in front of you they had several sepulchres and several altars, among which the tomb of Otto II, the Holy Roman Emperor. So knocking those down would have been a big no-no. It was hollow ground after so long. So what they decided to do is elongate it by 40 meters. So that's you kind of lose the 2 towers, the 2 domes on top. You only see about half of the first one. Now, by the end of it, the facade will be all done by 1606. Yet, 1626, you're going to end up with the finishing. Why? Well, they're going to start working on what you see around me, the colonnade. Now, the colonnade will ultimately be finished after the consecration of the church in 1626. It's going to be finished by the 1660s by Gian Lorenzo Bernini. Now, the colonnade itself, besides the fact that it's crowned, as you can see, with 148 statues by various Baroque artists, it is also a work of masterpiece. Imagine every single one of these columns. You're looking at columns that are about 30 meters tall. Every single one of them, and they're on 3 rows, are going to end up being one single row, if you know the secret spot, which is right over here, where this nice nun is taking a photo. So I'm going to let her do that, and then I'm going to go show you guys as well. Now, there was also 2 additions as far as the fountains. There was a fountain already here, and Bernini builds the one on the other side of the obelisk. Now, so as far as statues go, you have 188 all around. However, right on top of the church, you have 13 disciples. Now, it will be Jesus in the middle and 12 of his disciples around. May I? Thank you. So, from here, you guys notice 1 row of columns. Thank you. If I move to the side, you see more of them. And she was nice enough to let me take a shot from there. Now, with that said, the whole point of the area was, prior to the fascist period, prior to the 1930s, right at the end of this square, you'd had a Borgo, prolongment of the Borgo Pio, a tiny little medieval neighborhood. So you walked through tiny little dirty streets, you didn't see anything, and then all at once, bam, St. Peter embraces you. So that was the whole effect of it. It's supposed to be the arms of Peter embracing the Christians coming to it. Now, with several additions by Mussolini destroying the neighborhood, now you can kind of see it from afar. However, the effect still remains. Now, for everybody that wants to come to St. Peter's Basilica, a few things should be noted. First of all, it's free to go inside. Expect slide lines during the summer. Past that, it is not the same as the Vatican Museums or Sistine Chapel. That is a separate line with a separate ticket. Also, when you get here, most people expect to see the Pope right in the middle balcony. Well, that balcony, if you see him, you're very lucky, because that balcony is the confirmation balcony. They only show up there when they get elected. Otherwise, you'll mainly see them, and let's see if I'm good with the camera, at the Palazzo Apostolico. It's a building started in the 1100s and finished by the 1400s with different additions. And if you notice, out of all the windows on the second to last floor, all of them are closed save 2. Now, those would be the windows that you'd often see the Pope talking from. Also, in between St. Peter's and the Apostolic Palace, the building that will be centered right there in the middle, that would be one of the corners of St. Peter's Basilica. And when a Pope passes and we elect a new one, they often put a chimney there. They will blow out. I said Sistine Chapel, I said Basilica. It's good, but I have some people actually listening to me here. So basically, the Sistine Chapel is the one right in the middle over here. So they put chimney outside. They will obviously put smoke out if we elect a Pope. Black if we don't have one, white if we do. And with that said, I hope to see you all on the Roman Vacations Tour. Thanks all so much for joining. Have a very, very good night, guys. I'll pass you to my colleague.
Thank you, Mircea. That was awesome. Obviously, we know there's a lot more to say about St. Peter's, so we encourage you to come on over and get on a tour with Mircea to see everything you missed today. And tune in again next 2 Tuesdays from now, not next Tuesday, the Tuesday after, for another tiny tour, number 11. We look forward to seeing you all again. Have a great day.
As far as statues go, I'm encountering slight technical difficulties here. As far as the statues go, thank you, Ange. Isn't she nice?
Let go.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so hasn't happened in a while.